Welcome back, Kansas City Race Talk fans. This episode is the episode number 15, brought to you by Rod and Supply. Man, I tell you what, this one's going to be a cool one. I've got a young man that has had a pretty cool 2026, from traveling to Australia and running in Australia with the High Limit series to running with High Limit multiple times this year. Also then on the list, and we'll be at US 36 for the Honest Abe Power Eye Sprint Series in the house. And I like this because it's not only is he a local young man, but he's also driving the house car for a local chassis builder right here. I want to say Kansas City, but right outside Kansas City in Odessa, Missouri. So without further ado, Xavier Doty drives the Sheehan Lawson chassis house car along with his sister driving the second one, driving for Dan Lawson. Just got back from a trip out to Kokomo running with High Limit, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the theme. But Xavier, man, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I know Alan Staley kind of put us together with Power Eye, and this is your second year running with the Honest Abe Power Eye 410, so you got to be pretty excited about that.
Well, this will be my fourth year so
Oh,
far.
really? Okay, I thought it'd only been two.
Well, I think the first two I was running some non-wing stuff alongside it, so this will be my second year just primarily wing car.
Gotcha. You've been involved with your car owner for quite some time. You ran a non-wing car. You're now stepped up into the 410 wing stuff. Dan Loss has been a pretty good car owner for you guys and has really surrounded you with some pretty cool people, along with Sammy Swindell and that kind of stuff. But let's go back even further than that. Where did you start your racing career, Xavier?
My racing career started in quarter midgets at the Topeka quarter midget track.
Oh, wow.
I started racing when I was 6, and my sister Natalie came along not too long after. She was 4.5 when she started practicing, and then we raced quarter midgets for up until 2016. 2016 was our last full season in those. And
Gotcha.
then, I moved up into a restricted micro, and Natalie moved up to a junior sprint, and we mostly raced at Sweet Springs, did a little bit of traveling, and made our way up the ranks in the micros. And in 2020, it was my first few races in a 410 non-wing sprint car, and been in the sprint cars ever since.
I got you. Well, it's pretty cool, man, because I don't think people realize, and I'm going to get the opportunity to go to Sweet Springs with the Midwest Lightning Sprints later this season and do some announcing. But Sweet Springs, man, has really brought some talented drivers. I did an interview with Jack Wagner. He was from out of that ranks, along with just numerous drivers that I've talked to has come out of that deal. Do you think that having that experience really helped you when you made that step into the big car, if you will?
I think so, because Sweet Springs, whenever we were there, it never was the same track 2 nights in a row, so there was a lot of variability, and the track was super dynamic, and it's almost like racing at 2 different tracks some weekends if it was a 2-night show.
Sure.
It's a really technical place, so you learn some really good skills to move up through the cars.
Sure. So you make the move up, you run a couple seasons non-wing, which back then would have been the MWRA, I'm assuming. Did you do any USAC stuff during that time too? Or was it strictly MWRA racing or any of the local stuff, maybe some Power Eye stuff, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, the first full season in the non-wing car, we actually ran full-time with the MWRA and the Power Eye War Series.
Gotcha.
And ended up Rookie of the Year in both series.
Very cool.
And then we did do some traveling to some USAC shows during that time, and I've been to Indiana Sprint Week a few times. We did the full thing once, and we've gone up for the first half one of the times, and then I think the second half a different time.
Very nice. So there's been a whole evolution in your racing. Dan then gets involved with Sheehan Lawson chassis. That brings a whole nother element in. Then here over the last 2 years, Sammy Swindell's been pretty involved with your program. How's that been?
Yeah, it's been really cool. really at Snail Awesome Chassis, we've been making lots of connections with people, and Sammy's one of those guys we made a connection with, and we started off and just kind of got to know each other at the shop here, and we've gone through a few races, and Sammy's helped us out a lot. He's a real picky guy when it comes to race cars. Kind of ironed out all the small stuff, and now we're kind of working up towards more of the bigger and setup stuff, and we're making progress for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to be cool. I mean, Hall of Famer. I mean, pretty cool to have Sammy Swindell in your corner.
Yeah, it's super cool. Blessed for him to be in our corner and super thankful that he's giving us the time of day. It's just been really awesome.
Well, it's my understanding that Sammy has got a real eye for young talent and really likes working with young, very promising talent. And that's part of the reason why he's really gotten involved with you and your sister, because he sees that talent in you guys, which is pretty, I mean, that's pretty cool in itself. But you've had some really neat opportunities over the last couple of years. You run the 410, then the high limit series starts. You get to go start running some of those. I've even seen you at the Chili Bowl running a midget. So tell me how cool as a kid we grow up, we want to be race car drivers, and some of us have the talent, some of us don't, but you have managed to put yourselves in really good spots and been able to kick doors open, if you will, to open some of those really cool opportunities. Was that all you ever? I mean, I know you graduated high school, you're in college, you're studying to be an engineer, recently engaged. But since the age of 6, all you wanted to do is be a race car driver. And now you are. So as you look back, do you just kind of at times go, how did I get here?
Well, sometimes it's a funny story with Dan Lawson, our current car owners. At first, he was just eyeing Natalie at Sweet Springs whenever she was racing the junior sprint. He had a junior sprint. His driver was going to be out for a
Right.
weekend that he was sponsoring a race there. So he put Natalie in his car, and his brother Bill is actually the guy that saw me. And he said, "You got to check this Xavier kid out." So we ended up getting sponsored by him for the shootout, Tulsa shootout that year, and we've been together ever since. And since Dan acquired Schnee and turned it into Schnee Lawson Chassis, and me working here and working with Brian and my dad, Mike, we acquired a lot of connections, and really connecting with Sammy has helped us with our sprint car program and allowed me to run the Chili Bowl with him. And one of our customers, Paul Keene from Australia, he actually called us up, I think last November to race his car with High Limit down in Australia at first in December. And then after that, we actually went over to the East Coast of Australia and ran the classic at Warrnambool with Paul as well.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to get into that, how cool that was. I mean, that's an opportunity of a lifetime to get on a plane, fly over, put your seat in, and go drive somebody else's car. Um, Especially with the talent. And you made the show and were competitive. Top 16, I think you were, top 15s right in there. Because I actually watched the shows on Flow, and you're definitely getting. I mean, there's eyes. I mean, you guys are having success. Tyler Courtney's having success. Rico Avery's having success. And all these guys are on the same chassis and haven't tapped into the world of outlaw guys just yet, but you're working on that as a company. I talked to Dan at 36 earlier this year. I was going to try to do a short little interview with you then, and you were, I think, doing a pill draw or doing something. I don't know exactly what, but we weren't able to reconnect. But I talked to Dan, and Dan was telling me that really, really starting to try to break into that outlaw group. And I know you ran the Outlaws and made the show with the Outlaws at US 36 also earlier this year. So you've had some pretty good success there with that group and with 36, which was where you'll be this Friday night. So are you excited to be going back to somewhere? I mean, I don't want to call it home, but close to home where you have some laps in probably I'm sure you do in a non-wing car too, but then a non-wing and then now with the wing car.
But it's definitely easier to haul out to a close race with the track that Natalie's got more laps than I have at. She's super familiar with the track. he's given me a little bit of advice running around there. We've got some setup notes, and we've had some good runs there in the past. Yeah, I'm excited to go back.
Well, I will tell you, Xavier, I've been watching you ever since you started driving for Dan. And I watched you win a race at Lakeside Speedway in a non-wing car where there couldn't have been, because it was a last lap pass to take the lead, and there couldn't have been 3 millimeters between you and the wall when you did that. It was impressive. I mean, the crowd was up in there cheering, and I mean, it was extremely cool. You have that, and I don't want to say you've lost it, but you had that when you first got in the car. It was you become much more methodical and much more, I don't want to say seasoned, but much more strategic is probably the right word. Where when you first got into those cars, it was I don't want to say records or checkers, but it was definitely you went as hard as you possibly can. Where now I see you being much more strategic, putting yourself in right spots when the opportunity arises, even if it's only 3 millimeters, you're going to take it. But do you think that's an evolution of experience, the people around you, some of Sammy, because Sammy was very methodical too, could be right there on the ragged edge, but also was very methodical in how he did things. Are you getting some of that from that experience?
Yeah, I think so. Experience plays a big part in it, and I also think like a gain and respect for the equipment that I'm racing in, it's also played a big part in it. But I think even though I've become more methodical, I think I still need to get a little bit more of that wild edge back, just
Sure.
to kind of push the car to its limits and push myself to my limit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that every sprint car driver has that or have to have that in them. But like I said, what I've seen is a real growth that has happened very quickly. I mean, I've been really impressed. How, since you brought up Natalie, how cool is it? Because I know you guys are close. Cool is it to be racing with your sister? I mean, is that a pretty neat deal?
It's super cool. We get to push each other and we get to share notes that a lot easier than most of the other people can because we're living in the same house and she gives me crap for the mistakes I make and
Right.
I give her crap for the same things. And
Sure.
I think hopefully I'm pulling her along and motivating her because I feel like I'm her target
Yeah.
and that's really probably making her go faster or get faster at an accelerated rate.
Sure. Well, I'm sure there's some of that there, but it's got to be cool. I mean, just being able to hang out with your sister and go racing, especially since it's kind of what you guys have all done your entire life. The with the opportunities that Dan Lawson is giving you and running these high limits shows that you've been running along within this Honest Abe series that you've been running. What do you think you're gaining besides that notebook? And I mean, do you feel like you're growing because of the traveling and seeing different racetracks and experiencing different? Because there ain't one racetrack the same. Do you think that's making you better or maybe more rounded as a race car driver?
I think so. Yeah, we're like you said, we're building our notebook, and I'm getting more laps at different tracks. And some tracks require completely different driving styles, like Hobstadt, you just throw it in the corner, and
Mhm.
Knoxville, you drive it in there straight like you're on the freeway. And uh, different tracks, like the national races with High Limit and World of Outlaws, you're only going to get as good as the people you race with. Racing against those national level guys and going to get your teeth kicked in, it's a real eye opener, and you can turn that into a really good growing experience.
Yeah, for sure. I can only imagine because that's got to be. I can't imagine it, but it's got to be a little. Oh my! I can't believe I'm. I mean, I'm standing in a drivers' meeting and I've got Sheldon Haudenschild sitting next to me on one side and Gravel on the other, and or at a high limit where you've got Kyle Larson or Rico Abreu or Tyler Courtney Sunshine. And then to see them guys in and out of the shop all the time too, because you are working when you're not at school, you're working at the shop. I was told a couple things. I was told you are an extremely smart young man. I was told you taught yourself how to weld watching YouTube.
Well, I got a little experience before I picked up the torch for kind of learn how the process worked. And really, Ryan gave me some pointers, and a lot of my welding has come from experience, just kind of like the racing stuff has. It's all about seat time, and with the welding, it's all about welding time,
Right.
having the helmet down and repeating the process.
So you do work at Lawson Chassis also with your busy schedule with racing and school. You don't have much time to do nothing, do you?
Well, this semester's actually been pretty light with school. That's I'm only taking 2 classes, and they're both online, so I've
Okay.
got a little extra breathing room to get on the simulator and do other stuff like that. But working at Lawson Chassis 10 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then going racing, running up and down the road, it takes a lot of time and effort, but, I make time for what I need to do. It's doable,
Yeah.
especially when you're chasing your dreams.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Do you feel like getting that practical experience in the shop is really helping you? You know, you talked about earlier about appreciating the equipment that you're in. Do you feel like that hands on, I'm building this from scratch? Do you feel like that has helped you appreciate that and maybe even helped you when you start talking about setup stuff and, hey, we need to do this and we need to do that? Or I didn't like the way this felt, can we do this? Do you feel like that's giving you or making you a more rounded racer?
Yeah, I think so, and going back to the whole respect for the equipment part, I actually built the whole chassis for the car I'm racing this year, and we actually took it to PRI and had it on display. It's
Very
a pretty
cool.
nice piece that we've got, and I just really working in the shop, having access to all this fabrication equipment, we can make changes that we need to make, and we get feedback from the teams traveling up and down the road, and the feedback we really take into account and think about, and can really make some good adjustments to our own team with that.
Well, and I heard that we all seen Tyler Courtney's accident at Eldora. Unfortunately, he was injured, but it surely could have been a lot worse. And I understand that there's some design elements in the chassis that you guys build that some of the sanctioning bodies have definitely come and started looking at for safety reasons, because unfortunately in at least in the sprint car world, um, we're seeing a lot of back injuries here over the last, especially the last year, and you've got to take some pride in that you're building quality stuff that can withstand, because that was a bad wreck. Did you get the opportunity to see that after the fact so that you guys could do some redesign or maybe look at some different things to help with that being part of the build team?
Yeah, I saw some pictures of it. I never saw the car in person, but a lot of the stuff that happened to the car, the 7BC team and us have taken into consideration, and the Closet Marshall team actually made a few changes to their car to make it safer, and
Mm-hmm.
we're actually thinking about doing a little safety stuff with the tall cage brace for the car,
Gotcha.
and we're looking at stuff like that to innovate for safety.
Right. Do you feel like you're going to school to be an engineer, and here you are engineering and welding these cars together? Do you feel like that's helping you appreciate that whole? I mean, are you looking at things differently? I guess is what I'm asking.
I think so, yes. My education, obviously, it's expanded from all the engineering work, just working with equations. I think my physics class and my statics class I've taken, just with all the point forces and loads and other dynamics equations and stuff like that, it's really gonna be a big help whenever we're taking changes in, like, chassis structure into account, looking at redesigning stuff, so
Gotcha.
I think all of that'll be beneficial for the company.
Gotcha. Well, I want to back up a minute. The car that Natalie got into, was that Waylon Phillips's car?
That was Dan Lawson's car, but
Yeah,
Waylon Phillips was
But
driving it
Waylon
before.
drive it. I actually called a race. Waylon has really stepped up his game, starting to run really well. And it's nice to see how many racers Dan has touched and helped them grow in this sport, because Waylon ran second a couple weeks ago with the 305 class at Valley Speedway. I was there calling that race, and I didn't recognize him from the little kid that I remembered. But yeah, I was like, all right. I mean, here goes another example of what Dan is doing throughout the sport. And I say Dan, the whole team is doing throughout the sport. We talked a little bit about Australia, had some very successful runs there. Was that a whole, I mean, you're battling your language barrier a little bit there. I'm sure they talk a little differently than you do. Was that a challenge getting into that car? Because I know, because I met him, and I know the paperwork's filled out and it's coming, but you've got a new crew chief coming here really soon from Australia. And so that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Obviously, the Australian accent's just a little different than ours, and then some of the terminology is a little different because some of them they call a tight race car left hand down, turn the wheel to left to try to get the car to turn and stuff like that. It's just terminology and kind of what'd you say? Can you
Right.
slow down a little bit because your accent's a little thick, but I think it's probably the same way the other way around 'cause
Sure.
our accent's a little different for them too, but, we we kinda clicked pretty quickly and understood each other well, and, I'm excited for Adam to come over. Actually, today he was in a meeting for immigration, and hopefully he gets his passport over soon and
Yep.
get out here and start helping on the team.
Yeah, I'd seen that on Facebook. I actually seen we're friends when I met him there at one of that swap meet. He super nice guy and super excited to be a part of the team, which was refreshing. I actually was like, all right, this guy really wants to be a part of this, and so you guys have got to be just over the moon that's coming hopefully quicker than later for sure. So you run Australia, you come back, you run the Chili Bowl. What have you done between this? Because this is well, I know you did Kokomo High Limit, you did the World of Outlaws. What other races have you done? Because this technically 36 will be the first night of the Honest Abe, correct?
It'll be the second night,
It'll be the second night. Okay,
not last weekend, but the weekend before we were in at Big O, Texas.
that's
Had
right.
the first night then.
Gotcha. How did Big O go?
It went alright. We were kinda searching for a setup early in the night, and we ended up getting a good setup on the car for the feature, and I started driving it the way it needed to be and ended up with a 12th, 6th run then.
Gotcha. Sister got upside down too, didn't she? Yeah, yeah. Was that her first time in a wing car upside down?
No,
No.
it's not, unfortunately, but,
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah,
we're she's learning from it, we're learning from it, and
sure.
we're just gonna take it and move on and grow from it.
Well, I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, I remember you getting upside down at I-70, I think, with the World Outlaws a couple years ago with a pretty gnarly wreck, I believe, at I-70. What's the speed or what's the learning curve and speed difference between the non-wing car and the wing car? Because you've made that jump. How different is it? I mean, because I'll give you an example. I talked to Ricky Lewis, and Ricky Lewis is like, all I want to do is run non-wing cars. I don't want to get into a sprint to it. We know there's more downforce. We know that, everything's a little bit different. But what are you having or what are you struggling with the most between the two? Because you had success in the non-wing car. I've seen you win in it. You've won in the wing car at 34, I believe. You picked up a win. You picked up a non-wing win down at the Lake of the Ozarks, I believe, along with then I know you did at Lakeside the night I was there for that race. What's the biggest difference between the two?
Well, uh, the whole style of driving and the racecraft is a little different because in the wing cars, it's all about momentum, and if you break your momentum, you're basically gonna get past. The dirty air from the wings, it's way more difficult to follow somebody into the corner real close without losing time on them through the corners compared to the non-wing where you can go in right on somebody's left rear and just wing it through the corner. Not really wing it, but it's a non-wing, but,
Right, right.
you can follow them super close and not really lose through the corner because 'cause you're not dealing with that dirty air.
Is that dirty air that noticeable? I mean, you're driving down the back chute, you're right behind Sheldon Hodenshield, or an Eric Jennison. You can really feel that air off of that car. Does it really make that? Never been one, so I can't. I'm asking, what's it feel like?
Well, most of the time when you're in dirty air, you see the wing cars, they get through the corner and they wing over on the
Mhm.
left side and they pin on the left and just drive around the corner. And then whenever you're following somebody and you get in that dirty air, there's less air pushing down on that wing to wing you over. So you kind of roll up on the right sides. And if you're too close and or you're too hard up in the cushion behind somebody, you can actually bike it up and get upside down doing it, just driving behind somebody.
Gotcha. The part of that, the cushion too. I mean, because you guys, you watch a late model car, man, they want to get up there and bang right off that cushion. You guys want to kind of just get there, but you don't want to hit it because it really upsets those cars. I imagine it makes an instant tight when you smack that thing. Is that kind of what you're feeling with that cushion also? So it's a kind of a real fine line. I don't want to be as dirty air, but I don't want to hit that cushion. So how do you navigate that? Or have you found a spot like a Dale Earnhardt Senior where I could find that air that really works?
Well, in the wing car, you definitely do have to finesse it up on the cushion. You don't really want to lean into it super hard and risk getting over it, but getting behind somebody and running the top, you really have to be aware of what's happening with your front end and just make sure that front end doesn't throw over and get you up over the cushion. And like with the non-wing sprint cars, since you're not leaning on the cushion with the sidewall of the tire and you're more leaning on it with the tread, you can lean on it quite a bit more, kind of like you see the late model guys do.
Gotcha. So you really feel like you in a non-wing car, you're running more on the right rear than
Yep.
you are in a wing car. Wing car, you're running more on a left rear. Really? Yeah. Well, I think I'd have been really good in the non-wing car because I like being on the right rear. There's a comfort about that, and that's got to have been a little bit of a transition for you because you could always just lean that thing in, and now it's like. I got to watch air and I want to keep the left in the racetrack more. So I'm sure that was a challenge.
Yeah, it definitely was. Just even running down the straightaway with the wing on at first, just car wanting to lean over on the left rear. It was kind of spooky because it's like I've never felt this before, and cars wanting to dart around and all kinds of stuff. But getting used to it, it's all about really just being smooth and keeping the car as straight as you can.
Right. Well, and I don't think people realize how important throttle control is in those cars, and being smooth. Everybody thinks you just get in and stop down on the pedal, and that's not the case at all. You guys are running more three-quarter and half throttle than you are all the way out, or at least that's what I'm told. Because they have so much power, you can wheel stand them going down front straight away. Well, you ain't any faster when you're wheel stealing them. At least that's what I'm being told. Is that the truth?
Well, I think in race conditions, there's a lot of truth to that because following people, you got less downforce, so you're having to keep from spinning the tires more. But in qualifying, a lot of the times when the track's still pretty hooked up, most of the guys are just wide open and kind of dragging the brake just to get the car to rotate around the corner a little easier.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Which and I always wanted to ask this question. When you're dragging the brake and you see that rotor glowing, can you feel that in your hind end? Because it sure looks like, woo, that thing gets hot.
Yeah, you see it from up in the stands or on TV, and it's just glowing red hot, but I've never felt it, and maybe some of that's because I've got a foam seat insert in there,
Right.
providing a little insulation, but I've never really felt the heat off of it.
Gotcha. Gotcha. The what if you could write your future, what would you like to see happen with your racing career? Because you're in school right now. You're getting ready to you're engaged. So things are changing. Where would you like to see this eventually end up? When you are ripping and going, where would you like to eventually be?
Well, the next step I'd like to take is get on the road full time with one of the national touring series like World of Outlaws or High Limit, and if I can go further than that, great. And it's just I think really I can't be super picky with my future, but I can do as much work as needed to kind of just get myself there and just put in the work to push through and take all the opportunities I can.
Well, and speaking of work, Are you? I mean, everybody's seen Rico in the gym working out, getting stronger. Are you doing those things on top of everything else that you're doing in your busy schedule? You're a young guy. You're in your are you 20 yet?
20, yeah.
Yeah, as I thought you were. So you're a young guy, fit guy. Um, but do you find yourself going, boy, this is work. This is a workout. I need to spend a little more time. I need to eat right and live right, which I know you do. But do you find yourself really focusing on that now because you know that that is an element of making that next step?
Well, at the moment, it's not really a focus for me just because my time's filled up with a lot of other things. I think after this, actually, week and a half, I'll be done with school, so I'll be able to put more focus into my diet and exercise and all that.
Yeah,
Really, driving those race cars it's a lot of work.
it
You get
is.
out of the car, you're out of breath, and you see some of those guys on the interviews after a heat race, and they're huffing and puffing, and it's a lot of cardio, a lot of endurance. You gotta have dexterity to drive a race car for
No,
sure.
for sure. They're, they always argue, "Well, they're not athletes." Well, I'm going to call bull on that. They're absolutely athletes. I wheeled a race car for 20 years. I know how much it took, and I was never at the level that you guys are at, and so I can't imagine nor the speeds. Do you? Are you finding that you like a certain style of racetrack now as you're getting more seat time? Is it the 3 high bank 36s, or is it the half mile at Lakeside or the half mile at Knoxville? Or are you just kind of adapting right now?
Well, I won in a wing car on the half mile at Sedalia and
Hmm.
3 dates at 34. I think tracks similar to 34 and Lucas Oil and Lake Ozark are kinda what suit my driving style, and, really, I'd like to get better at the other types of tracks too and just kinda round out my portfolio and just really improve overall as a driver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no doubt you are definitely doing that. I've been following you for a long time. You're steadily getting better and better and better as I see you. So we're about ready to end here, Xavier. Who do you got to thank that makes all this possible for you? I know you've got sponsors on top of Dan and what they do for you, but I know Dan's a huge part of it. But who do you got to thank? What who do you got to think makes this dream of yours possible?
I I gotta thank my parents, first of all, for getting me in the sport and getting me through 4 midgets and most of the way through micros, and they're still a big help, and my dad's been the crew chief on my
Hmm.
car this whole time, and up until Adam gets here. I've gotta thank Natalie for being there and giving me crap and pushing me harder, and we gotta thank Dan for owning the cars, Candy, his wife, letting him spend the time with us, really help us develop in sport. I gotta thank Design Source Flooring, Ella Building Systems, Excavation, Motor Haven, Schnee Lawson Chassis, Five Star Bodies. We actually did some cool
Hmm.
uh, development stuff with them earlier, or actually last year, and now we're seeing the result of that with the new body.